Paul, what's happening? Oh, there's a goddamn plane. That's good, I got a trial run. Hi guys, welcome to The Human Experience with Bree. Today I have the absolute privilege of talking to Paul Letham. Paul is a trained counsellor and he is a member of the NZAC, I believe.
Yes.
Well done.
Yep.
Which is the New Zealand Association of Counsellors. He is an ex-theatre buff, has acted and also produced some of his own plays. And he specialises in LGBTQ community and also existential concerns, spirituality, creativity, and I'm very lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
So
Lovely
thank
to be
you
here.
for joining us. All right, well, I just want to dive straight in.
Awesome.
And get to these questions. And we're starting with a really good one. So thank you to the lovely person who gave me this. How do you go about putting boundaries in place with the people you love without hurting them?
Wow, that is a really good one to start with. Boundaries, they're delicate things. Sometimes placing those boundaries will inevitably cause some degree of discomfort in those you love, particularly if they're not used to you being in that particular way of being. So
Absolutely.
And boundaries can be around any number of things. So it can be around behaviours, but it's really about addressing, often it comes from a place of need. So if you've got a need that isn't being addressed within a relationship and you feel that you need to place a boundary there and say, look, this doesn't work for me. Obviously that involves some level of negotiation with your partner or your friend or whoever.
Or your parent.
Or your parent, indeed. But if they're used to you being a certain way, then...
That's going to be quite... they could be quite shocked by that.
Yep. And
not like it.
Exactly. So I think, as the question says, it sort of implies that, it would be good to be able to do it in a way that doesn't involve upsetting somebody. But I would put forward the idea, a slightly bold idea, that that's actually probably impossible.
So we're saying be courageous.
Be courageous.
Go
courageous. But courageous but compassionate with yourself, especially.
I love that. That's it can be one of our little quotes. Courageous but compassionate.
Oh, great. We're up to quotes already.
Quotes. We're on question 1. And we've got a standout quote for you guys. I really procrastinate on putting myself out there professionally. How can I take steps to overcome my self-doubt?
Self-doubt.
Yes.
Wow.
Sorry for the big questions today.
No, it's fabulous. It's getting my head going. I think if this person who wrote the question was in front of me, I'd be wanting to first define what they mean by out there.
Yes.
Whether or not that means they want to appear more confident or more knowledgeable.
Or being seen. Or being visible.
Good point. Yeah, visible.
Which is a big thing in today's world with, social media and all that.
Exactly. So I'd want to determine how they define that first of all, and then work from there, because they talk about self-doubt.
Yeah. So they really procrastinate on putting themselves out there because they feel like they're not good enough.
Self-doubt's a tricky one because often in order to address it, it does, again, we're going back to that idea of courage. Yeah. You don't make an omelette without breaking some eggs. So sometimes it's a case of literally trying some things until something works.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one.
So it's almost like, can I say baptism by fire? It's like, it's like just try and see what happens, and like you only learn by taking that step and then reassessing.
Yeah.
and taking another step,
Yeah.
and then reassessing, and like I think always knowing that you're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can you surround yourself with to make yourself more okay? Because I can understand there is a real vulnerability with putting yourself out there.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
And one of the things I've learned actually in doing this, and that I keep seeing over and over again, is if you're stepping into your purpose, or if you're doing your truth, some people are really not going to like you or what you stand for. And that's okay, because you're not for them. But some people, you're actually going to attract, very popular word these days, your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are going to be like, this is my home.
Yeah.
These are my people.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to create and define your audience naturally by being who you are.
Yep.
And that can be uncomfortable, but it's part of it.
Yeah, and as part of my practice, I'm a little bit of a Jungian. I take a lot of ideas from Carl Jung's writings, and one of his famous quotes is, "There's no coming to consciousness without pain."
Mm-hmm.
So I think in my years of counselling people, the main theme I see, which holds people back, is the idea that progress should be as painless as possible. But I would advocate exactly the opposite.
Absolutely.
It will be painful at times, but you've got to move through it. I'm a bit of a stoic.
Okay, this is a funny one. I don't have this problem. As you'll soon find out. I have been told I am not great at communicating. How do I improve in this area? Sometimes I feel really resistant.
Ooh, crikey. That's a very general question.
Talk more?
Well,
Sorry, that's me being very cheeky.
well, in a sense, there's something in that. All flippancy aside. Again, I'm a huge advocate for practice makes perfect. So if you want to try something new, if you don't feel like you're a good communicator, well then the only way you're going to get better is by actually doing it. And I know that's very easy for me to sit here and go, you just need to communicate more, but it's
the only way, right?
Like if that involves going to Toastmasters, like I've had a number of clients over the years go to Toastmasters.
Yes.
It's a little bit cliched, but it works. So
I did it.
Yeah,
I
well,
did Speechcrafters,
there you
and it was
go.
the most fantastic preparation for doing seminars in front of 90 people.
Yep.
That I ever did.
Yeah.
And I started looking forward to it because
Yeah.
people are so supportive.
yeah.
So that's a really good recommendation.
I've recommended it more than once to
Yeah.
clients. Because like you said before, it's a trial by fire.
Do you have any tips on how to deal with showing vulnerability in the sports arena when the culture is one of toughen up? Don't show your tears. Yikes.
Yeah.
In New Zealand.
In New Zealand, well, look, in New Zealand we do have the very popular notions of a very specific way of being male. I deal with, look, I've been in private practice for just 7 years next month. Most of that time, 3/4 of those clients have been male. So my main piece of feedback would be that a lot of that is grounded in reality, that idea of being held back. It's getting better, but again, if I go back to that idea of, I suppose the theme would be leading by example. So if you feel that you are wanting to be more, what was the word that was used in the question? It was
showing vulnerability.
Showing vulnerability, yeah.
So maybe if you've been hurt or that's not okay for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just naming your feeling. You may get some blowback for that, but I would say, just be realistic and expect the blowback.
I really like what you said before, actually, and you said leading by example. So if you're brave enough to show vulnerability in an arena where that's not the norm, imagine the impact that you're having on other people who, as you say, you've been in private practice for 7 years, 3/4 of them are male, you are, aware of the psyche, would absolutely feel the same way as you, but are too scared to say so because it's not the place. So lead by example and watch and be different and watch what, I mean, obviously it's really scary.
It is.
And and you're putting yourself out there again, but yeah, imagine the impact that you would have on other people.
Exactly. Well, the change starts small.
Next question. How come it's so difficult to self-validate? We could be saving ourselves a lot of money by going to therapists.
Self-validation. Well, I think through my observations over the years, I tend to put forward the idea that ideally, a good 2/3 of your psyche, you should be validating yourself. That would be a nice to have, but
that'd be lovely.
I think that's.
Can you imagine that world?
It's a bit tough for most of us, I think, because it's an ebb and flow. But having said that, we do rely upon validation from others. In fact, that's essential because, again, we go back to the idea of the tribe. We need to know that we are accepted by the tribe. So often over the lifespan, there'll be a little bit of a 2 steps forward, 1 step back, getting a feel for what's truly me. How am I fitting into the tribe? Does that work for me? So self-validation, again, if we go back to the ideas of Carl Jung, I mean, it would be he talked about individuation, which was a process that happens across the lifespan. And he basically said that individuation it describes the process by which you come to know yourself over the lifespan through experience, through relationships, through interactions, through mistakes. And if you get to you'll get to your deathbed, and Jung would always say, you still haven't individuated. You're still learning. So self-validation is an offshoot of that. So basically, the more you know yourself, the more you'll be able to self-validate.
Big question. I feel like I have missed my moment. What can I do to begin my journey?
You've never missed your moment.
No.
You have never, ever missed your moment. I have lost, if I had $5 for every time someone in my room has said to me, I'm too old for this, it's too late. I'm in my 50s, I can't go back to university. I have
24-year-olds.
Well, that too. Look, $5 for everyone who's approaching 30 who says to me, Paul, my life's nearly over, I'm almost 30. Inside I'm screaming, I am allowed to swear, aren't I?
Yes.
Inside I'm screaming bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. Who the hell is telling you that?
I think it's that thing of they think of their life towards 30 and then that's it. And then there's like a block there. But it's like, oh no. And then people say life begins after 30. And it's it's a different phase.
Take it from someone who turned 50 last week.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Guys, can we have a close-up of
No, not too close. Not too close.
50?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel embarrassed.
Your 40s, again, going back to Jungian theory, he was big on midlife. My 40s have been way better than my 20s or my 30s ever were.
That's so cool.
So your life is ahead of you. It's never too late.
And if you're doing things that you love, or like taking risks and challenges when you're in your 50s, 40s, 60s, you're still living. Congratulations, you're alive.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, the quick example that I often use is when I was in my mid-20s, I lived in Christchurch. I was flatting with a guy who was in his late 50s, and he had been a lawyer up until the age of about 45, 46. And he decided, I'm sick of this, and he went back and he retrained as a landscape architect and had a very successful landscape architecture business. So,
Any time. Change it up. I don't know. It's like you said before, you are the designer of your friend, of your tribe. And it's like you're also the designer of your life at any stage. It's not just over.
Yep.
It's over when it's over.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, that's the bit we don't get a say on.
That's true. What is it about talking about our feelings out loud versus, to someone, versus in our heads that makes it so powerful?
That is a really good question. It actually addresses one of the things which, when you first start working as a therapist, you notice very quickly is that when people... They come to you in the first session, you do the pleasantries, you get a little bit connected, and then they start to tell you what they've come to see you for. And by the end of the session, they often report, I actually feel a little bit better. I'm not too sure of the mechanism behind that, but I think it's just the very act of saying the things out loud. Often those things have been in here for so long.
Yes, they have been, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and they grow a life of their own, and they often attach lots of feeling to it, such as pain and misery and shame and things like that. So if they're in a space, in the therapy space, and they're saying it out loud for the first time, and I'm sitting there responding with compassion and kindness and patience, often they get a sense of, oh, right, well that actually wasn't quite so scary.
That wasn't that bad. So many people say that, don't they? They go, oh, that wasn't as bad as what I thought it was. Feeling a bit better because they sort of come in like...
Well, I've heard several people over the years will say, by the end of the first session or the second session or whatever, they'll go, oh, I'm so glad you're not one of those people. I was expecting you just to be sitting in the corner frowning at me the whole time. And I'm just like, well, I'm in the room. I'm exactly as I am now. This is it. This is what you get.
I'm human with you. And there's something about being witnessed by another human being in compassion and love that allows that story or those thoughts inside your head to take on a different narrative. How do you manage with clients who have narcissistic tendencies, such as delusions of grandeur, etc.?
Oh, crikey. All right.
Sorry, Paul.
Well, strongly...
This is your last one.
Strongly narcissistic people, as a general rule, don't come to therapy.
Correct.
Because they don't feel like they need it.
They're perfect.
They are perfect, absolutely perfect.
And they'll tell you how to do your job. If they do come, they might tell you how to do your job.
How do I manage with clients who have delusions of grandeur? It would be a case of testing what those delusions are and how much they really believe them and how have they formed in the first place. Often the relationship has to build over time, and with someone who is perhaps a little bit delusional, you'd want to have a very strong relationship with that client first.
So build rapport.
Build a lot of rapport, a lot of connection before you started to test those ideas of delusions. Because you do get people who, and look, I've probably been the same years ago when I was in therapy as we were when we were training. You know, you'll come out with things that the therapist is probably thinking, oh, crikey, I'm going to have to note that for later. They
start scribbling?
But that's not pathologizing at all. That's not shaming. There's no shame or embarrassment around that. It's just a case of noting the things that are interesting. And if there were delusions of grandeur, I'd be wanting to know how they formed. Obviously,
I studied with you, so I'm a massive advocate for therapy, for counselling, for getting to know and love who you are on the inside. So I just so commend that you're out there still doing the work, 7 years
doing the mahi
later, doing the mahi. That's just phenomenal, and it's been so interesting to get a different perspective. And what I feel when I talk to you is that I do really feel that non-judgmental, such a compassionate lens. It's so lovely and also very safe. So thank you so much for being here, for coming.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's just been so good to have you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, it's Paul Letham. I've just been on The Human Experience with Bree. If you've got any questions, you can find me on Instagram, which is paul.letham.counsellor, or you can Google my name and you'll see where I practice, or feel free to leave any questions in the comments here. Thanks.